Hey everybody, the Super Vader 400 here, back for another review, and this time, this is my short review of both of the Judge Dredd films. That's the 1995 film starring Sylvester Stallone, and of course the 2012 reboot starring Carl Urban. Before I start these short reviews, I am a huge fan of the Judge Dredd character and comics. I think Judge Dredd is one of the coolest characters of all time, and I just love the comic. I just love the concept, the comics, and the fictional world the Judge Dredd character is set in. I also like how, after recently watching a Judge Dredd documentary, how unlike other superheroes who who write a series of issues, then later on get rebooted by a different writer several years later. Judge Dredd doesn't do this. They have it's a continuing story, and the character Dredd has aged is aged. So the stories began in the 70s and they're still going on now with no reboots. I think that right there is pretty cool and unique amongst comic books. But now let's get to the let's start off with the 1995 Judge Dredd film starring Sylvester Stallone. I think the 1995 Judge Dredd film is one of Sylvester Stallone's better films in my opinion, and in my opinion this film is criminally underrated. Criminally underrated. I love the concept. Even though the 2012 film, which I'm about to talk about, is much better, I like this. I think this film. I like this film much more than 1995 one. I like I like the storyline here. This is the Revenge of Rico storyline, and I love how this film included more stuff from the comic books, like the Star Wars looking mega city, um, the satirical violence from the comic, and of course characters like Rico Dredd, Judge Dredd's brother, and of course the Angel Gang makes an appearance in this comics. The whole plot of the film features Rico Dredd, Judge Dredd brother, whom he judged, breaking out of prison and framing Dredd for crimes he didn't commit, forcing Dredd to be stripped of his uniform and forced to go on the long walk and be in prison with, I think his name is Fergie. I think his name is Fergie. Rob Schneider's character, whom Dredd sentenced to the Aspel Penal Colony earlier, um, earlier, earlier. That's the plot of the 1995 Judge Dredd film. Like I said, this film is awesome. This film is awesome. The main criticism of this film is pretty much Stallone removing his helmet, and of course Stallone sharing romance with the Judge Hershey character, when romance is a no-no in the Judge Dredd comic book canon. And of course, well, he's removed his helmet, but they don't show his face in the comics here. Of course, Stallone. They moved the helmet so they can show his face. Stallone, he's not gonna walk around. Well, Stallone, of course, wouldn't walk around a film where you couldn't see his face. This is the only time I wish they had probably got a different actor back in 1995. Even though Sylvester Stallone, while Carl Urban, in my opinion, is a much better actor, I thought Sylvester Stallone, if you look at the comic drawing of Judge Dredd, Stallone greatly resembles Dredd more, the physical stature. Carl Urban kinda has several scenes look like a guy cosplaying as Dredd, more so than Dredd. But like I said, awesome film. Armando Sante was an great antagonist in Rico Dredd. Now the next one, of course, is the reboot, the 2012 Dredd film starring Carl Urban. This film featured this film right here featured this film featured Carl Urban as Judge Dredd. He did Judge Dredd. Of course, he in this film he teams up with a new recruit named Cassandra Anderson, who's a psychic to investigate and take down the Mama clan led by drug lord Madeline Madrugal, better known as Mama. That's pretty much the plot to this film. The plot itself is pretty much the plot itself is pretty much simplistic but really complex when it comes to the storytelling and how the events are portrayed in this film. This film is much more serious than the previous Judge Dredd adaptation. This is not a remake, but an entire reboot featuring an entirely different storyline. For the Judge Dredd character. It removes the comedy sidekicks and all of the cheesy, over-the-top acting that was featured in the 1995 film. And this film has a more realistic Batman Begins like approach to the narrative. More realistic characters, more realistic action sequences, and a realistic looking a much more futuristic but realistic looking mega city, and like I said, I like the storyline from the 1995 film better, but as a film, this film right here was put together much better, and this film right here um was well received by critics. I was actually shocked. I didn't think this film would be all that popular with critics, but this film was hugely popular. An action film in today, a science fiction action film in today's society, being popular with critics, But despite being popular with critics, the film the film didn't take a lot at the box office. A lot of people come up with reasons why this film failed. I believe this film failed because no one really cared about Dredd, This is one of those films, kind of like the Deadpool film that was released earlier this year, that was pretty much made for the fans of the source material. And Dredd is like a British comic book. That's not like a comic book here. That's more of a British comics, more popular over there than it is over here. And like I said, the first film in 1995, even though this is unrelated to that wasn't all well received. And I remember that film making over its budget, but that film was a box office disappointment too. So this film was one of those many films that when I look at this film was totally made for the fans, which makes me appreciate this film even more. Let's get to the cast. All the cast members do great. Of course, Carl Urban, he is awesome as Dredd. He is much tougher, much more menacing, and much more closer to the Dredd character than Stallone was. Like I said, Stallone has the physique and fits the stature of Dredd. If you look at the comic book drawing, he looks just like Dredd. However, both Carl Urban and Stallone have the unique chin, but Stallone just looks more the part of Dredd, whereas, like I said, Carl Urban, he looks like a guy cosplaying as Dredd or dressing up as Dredd. But like I said, in this film, since this film, while it didn't do well in theaters, it did way better on home video, giving this film cult status. And secondly, there have been talks of that the DVD sales could push to make a sequel. They've been talking about a sequel in the form of a movie or a TV series. I think there's already a comic book sequel focusing on the events after this film. But that sounds cool. Love to check that out sometime. But I want to see but I hope they make another film or a TV series. A TV series for the Judge Dredd universe is much better than a film. As cool as another film would be, a television series is much better. Like I said, this was my short review of the Dredd films. I'm gonna rewatch both of them and give a longer, more in-depth reviews discussing the plots and characters. All right, I'm done.